And now, without further ado, Mike Kuterbach.
Thank you, everyone. You've seen I brought out different shapes and things. They're called Sphericons, and it's not my idea. I didn't come up with it, but I just find they're a lot of fun to make. They kind of remind me of a saying I like that, you know, some people are like slinkies, not really good for anything, but it makes you smile when you push them down the stairs. So it was just fun to play with. You roll them. I guess everybody's seen them roll. I don't need to roll it across the. Yes, I do. We'll do it on the table here. Can you zoom in on the table? Oh, I can't do it now. Under the spotlight and I freeze up. It's a little uphill. It's the cloth. But anyway, like I said, it's not my idea. I actually saw John, I think, had them either at Coffee Hour or somehow he has a YouTube on them. And basically, you turn a double cone with a paper joint between the two halves, and then you, after you're done turning, you rotate it. And you get kind of the wonky shape. And I'll pass these around so you can look at them. This one's just held together with a magnet, so I can show. And you know, they just kind of meander when they roll. We need to get rid of the cloth. I'm sorry, I got to do this. My OCD is kicking in. Oh, there it goes. Yeah. Cool. And it's just fun to play with. I took some down to my sister when I went to visit, and in the morning we sat out on the deck and rolled them back and forth across the table while we drank coffee and conversed. So it's just a toy, a lot of fun. Pass these around. To make these, like I say, you start out by gluing up 2 blocks of wood with a paper joint between them. And I did it at Keystone, and at the end of the demo, somebody says, but what's a paper joint? So I'm going to show a paper joint. 2 blocks of wood with one surface smooth. The others can be smooth. They don't have to be. Piece of paper. I have a giant bag at home that I just cut pieces out of. And it works well. I guess other paper would work, but these are free and they work, so I see no reason to experiment with other paper. To glue them together, it's just 2 blocks with a piece of paper between them. Now, you don't need to glue the whole surface. That's a little bit of overkill. You just take, I use the original Type-On. And I just put 2 stripes or stripe and a half down the middle. You put them on one side. Then I'll do it on the other side. When I glue them this way, and when you rotate the pieces, the grain doesn't match. So if you want the grain to match, you got to glue them at 90 degrees to each other, but that just looks like such a waste of wood. So I just put them together, just a rub joint. You don't even need a clamp. Sometimes I clamp them, sometimes I don't. And then depending on how brave you are, you can probably start turning in about an hour, hour and a half, but I usually let it dry overnight just to be safe. So I have some already made up. Just a block of cherry. It's about 3 1/4 inches square by maybe 4 inches long. The pieces are actually as long as they are in diameter, but I give a little extra so I can get rid of that point from the live center, or the drive in the live center. So I start these between center. First thing I'm going to do is turn it round and put a tenon on it to hold it in a chuck.
Like, where do you get those very small drive centers.
This I actually bought from One Way. I had one that I really liked from Jet, but I lost it and I can't find them anymore.
Half inch.
I'm not sure. I tried to buy one that matches the One Way Live Center and it doesn't quite match. It's like, what's wrong with you people? Make them match. That way you can switch back and forth. I like it for my multi axis work.
Is it spring loaded?
No, it's just the point.
Nova has a center that with interchangeable tips on it.
They do.
Multiple different ones you can put on.
They do, but that's usually a live center. This is a drive. I don't need it to spin. I didn't know if that Nova makes one that doesn't spin or not. But that is a very good tail, live center. Not quite. Almost. It's like One Way they make the stronghold chuck. You get number 2 jaws or number 3 jaws, and there's a size right between the two that neither size will fit. It's like, can't you make them overlap?
Very rare.
All right, so nothing fancy about turning it round. I stand out of the way. This is the scariest part because I got this paper joint with just those 2 stripes of glue, and now I got them little points making a wedge right on that joint. And once I get it in the chuck, then I'm fine, but I stand off to the side.
That's one of the wing.
Yes. In fact, I wear a face shield when I turn these. But nothing special about this, just however you want to round it. Rough and gouge, I use a bow gouge. More power. It should be the cut of chop because there's no teeth on that. I could use a spur center on this, but I don't know where mine is. I use this drive so much. I'm sorry?
Diameter you go for, or whatever it turns out to be.
Well, I'm starting about 3 1/4 square, so somewhere between 3 1/4 and a 3-inch diameter actually works best for these. You can choose any size you like, but that works with the chuck I use, so that's why I go for that. Still got a flat spot, but I'm going to put it in the chuck. So I'll just turn a tenon on the one end. This one a little closer. I knocked my coffee cup off the table and it landed right side up, so something's went right anyway. I just made a jig that checks, a go, no-go jig that it's going to fit in the chuck. This is a stronghold with the number 2 jaws. That holds from, what, 2 3/4 or like 3 1/2 or something like that. Not sure exactly. And I don't know if it matters, but I always give it a little push. When I put this in, I always line up the paper joint on one of the gaps between the chuck jaws. And you'll see how that comes in handy later on. That looks pretty good. Bring that up so I can take some heavier cuts. I should have changed the belts. It's on the slow speed, but it'll work. Oh, now I'm going to make it round completely. I don't worry too much about being round before I put it in the chuck, because when you go from centers to chuck, there's always a little bit of variation where it can be off. At least it is for me anyway. Okay, nice and smooth. Now I'm going to turn a 45-degree cone on the one end. Just to smooth this surface up a little bit. Tailstock out of the way. Now I want to get rid of that little hole from my live center. Still a little bit there, but I want to check and see. Since I want a 45-degree here, there's a 45-degree on the bottom, so it's a 90-degree angle between the two. And I just use a little combination square to check. And when I check, I want to check along that paper joint, because that gives me the diameter, the exact center. And I don't know if you can see overhead. Let me take my hat off. I'll be always in the way with that on. It's still me, even without the hat. Uh-oh, this makes me nervous. I got a defect in this piece of cherry. I might have to turn below that. So I can see the point is still a little bit long because I'm not touching on the outside. So now I want to turn my tool rest at 45 degrees. And I'm going to change from the bowl gouge to a spindle gouge. I'm going to go real slow when I get to the point because it's barely spinning, and I don't want to force it until the fiber's out. And you'll notice in this, there's a lot of stopping and checking. All right, I'm still too long on the point. So I kind of put my rest to help me guide this. Getting really close. I'm a little proud in the middle. The point and the top look pretty close. So now I'm just going to scrape a little bit. I heard you have to charge less if you scrape instead of cut, so don't tell anyone.
Ever use a skew on that cut instead of a gouge?
No. I mean, I could, but I don't see the point to it. I rarely use a skew unless I'm using it as a scraper. I mean, they say you get a really clean cut, but the problem with using the skew and you get this clean cut, you don't have to sand. There's cuts you can't make with the skew, and then you got to sand that part, and if you don't sand the whole piece anyway, it's going to show. So skew is more of like a chair maker's tool. Got a little bit more scraping to do. I'm going to wait the tool rest up. I think I'm pretty close now. That is just off a little.
Mike, do you ever use like a standing block?
I do. In fact, I brought one along. I was just going to show that. I'm not close. I have a sanding block. This is some 220, which will work on this cherry. The other side's 120 if I'm doing ash or something harder. And I know I want to take a little more off the point than up here, so I'm going to put a little more pressure at the point. As you sand the shape, you have to charge even less, so these are almost free by now. I'll make sure I'm along my joint. And I don't know if you can see that, it's really close. I think that's good. Now I want to start my 45 on the back side. Plus I got a little flat spot and I want to try and get, boy, I don't know if I can go below that or not. Probably going to lose that piece, but oh well. Either that or start all over. Don't want to do that. That stinks. There we go. I want to establish my 45-degree angle on the backside, but I don't want to get too small that I don't have enough support to hollow out the front. Before I get too carried away, I want to see how I'm going for angle. So I can adjust my square and go here. So you see I got a lot I can take off. Okay. That's a good idea. Get it on the camera you can see. I can kind of eye this side to that side, but it's still a lot of stopping and checking. And if you notice, I leave this little flat spot in case I go too sharp an angle. I still got some flat to work with. All right, I'm getting really close now. So I kind of got my angle right. I want to get rid of that flat spot. I don't know how much wood we're going to lose. All right, I lost my angle, but I can reestablish that. Here's the part you can't mess up, because if I went too steep, I just make the whole piece smaller. We will reach a point where I got to be right or else start over again. All right, I'm really close. I think I'm going to take another cut. All right, now you see I went too much down here, but that's okay because that's going to get cut away. Just going to do a little scraping up near this edge. And that's pretty good, if you can see that. It's a little bit of a sand. You see some demonstrations where the demonstrator picks up the tool and just makes the perfect cut, but that's not me. And I'd say I got to take a little bit more off. A little scrape. All right, I'm happy with that. Next, we're going to hollow out the unnecessary wood inside here. And to do that, I make a pattern. A piece of shelf material, melamine. I glued a cutting mat up to it. Got a nice square corner here. Where are we? Yeah, if we can extend out a little bit. There we go. Can you come towards me a little bit? There you go. That'll work. Yeah, that'll be good. The pattern, you can use pretty much anything. Cardboard that's not corrugated. This is just a piece of a cereal box. Plastic lids work okay if you need a more permanent pattern, but I just use the cardboard. And to take one variable away, I use glue dots to stick it to my cutting mat. That way I don't have to worry that it shifts while I'm doing my layout. Just stick that on. And then I can use a speed square, works. But I made a homemade speed square out of a drafting triangle. I just like it's not as thick. It seems to be a little bit easier to do my layout. I'm losing my microphone. And then I just draw a square corner. Oh, look at that. I messed up already. I guess I could have drew another line, but what's the fun in that? I want to go in a little more. All right, now I just need the length. I use a pair of calipers. We get the front view. There we got the overhead view will work. And I want to measure from the point to point along my paper joint. And lock that in. Now I want to draw that size square on my pattern. So I just use the point and I stick it in right there. And I make a mark here. And then I spin around and I make a mark here. Just a little indent in the cardboard. I can then take my pencil, put it in the mark. And that's where having a nice square corner works. That's one less measuring I have to do. I know I'm square from each side. I want to find the center. I can do that with my 45. There's the center. Now I want to draw a line. From experience, I know with about this size starting piece that a 1-inch circle will work. And to mark that out, I just have a circle template. You can pick out whatever size you want. I line up the center lines. I'm sorry, my head's in the way, but I'll show you after I get out. Got the center lines on the center line, and you draw this half a circle. And the same thing I can go on the other side. Boy, I missed on my center line, didn't I? Look at that. Messed it up already. So there's a much better center line. So again, sorry for my head in the way. And what I'm looking at is this size here. You don't want to go too small. There's two different ones. This one has the 1-inch circle. You can see them. You want this wider, but also that affects the thickness here. This thickness is 1/2 of this. So these are starting to get pretty small here, and they're getting really thin. And while it makes, I think, a nicer looking piece, they get to be a little fragile. So we'll pass these around, and you can look at them. So I'm going to go with the 1-inch circle. And since I don't like my center line here, I'm going to use that one. I want to cut this out. And to cut it out, I just use a piece of a hobby knife. And what I want to cut is along this line. From there out. Oh, I only went halfway. Then I'm going to do a little cut here. Cut that out. So I cut from the half circle out, half circle to the corner, save the corner. Now I just got to cut out my half circle.
Make a jig to do that.
You could. Too bad you can't just use a drill bit because you need that piece that gets drilled away. If I had a metal circle template, I could use that and trace along it, but with the plastic one, I'm afraid I'd be cutting into it.
At the leather store, you can buy a punch,
Okay,
1-inch, half moon punch, 1 stripe, done.
yeah, but that would cut the, it's only a half circle?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was gonna say if it's the full circle, I'd lose what I need. A half circle would work.
That's Tandy, huh?
Take your ladder.
Tandy. That's right.
And there's the pattern I need. After you make a few of these, you start getting enough that you probably don't need to cut a template for every size. You can start turning to match what you already have made. One thing you want to look at this and make sure you stayed on your lines. I didn't do too bad. I'm a little off here. I don't know if it's worth fixing or not. Probably will. I was a little bit off my line there. And you want to check how you did on your circle. And that ain't too bad. Look at that. I got lucky. If you don't cut a nice round circle, you can just take a piece of sandpaper and touch it up. But this one's pretty good. Now I want to transfer this to my turning. So let me get all this stuff out of the way. I put the corner right on the point, and my other line should match the other point. I'm really close. I'm happy with that. And I just mark this point and this point. Pretty good. And I want to mark all the way around so I can see it while it's spinning. the last thing to check is you want both of these to be exactly the same, because when you rotate the piece, they have to match up. So I check here and here, and I see they're off a little bit. Which one is wrong? I think that one's too short. Yes, I can see. You see how I'm off a little bit. So I know not to go to quite to that line. I'm not going to mark it again. You get too many lines that you'll never be able to tell which one is which. Now it's just a matter of hollowing some end grain. And for that, I just use my spindle gouge. So I'm doing a bevel cut going in. I come around the bottom and I'm just doing a straight. And I know I want to stay a little bit short of that line. And it kind of fools you. It makes you feel like you're undercutting, but you're really not. You're just going in 90 degrees from this angle. So now it's just a matter of checking and cutting and checking and cutting. You do that? It absolutely has to be spherical because you're rotating. The cut has to be a perfect circle. If it's off when you rotate it, it's not going to match.
I think you are actually undercutting to get that hemisphere inside there.
It's actually 90 degrees in from here. It looks like you're undercutting, but you're not.
I thought you meant, okay.
I mean, you can undercut them. I've seen that on, you look on YouTube and you see all different kind of shapes and stuff. If I actually would undercut, you can turn a round ball and stick it in and it'll stay like in a racetrack. But I'm not going to do that tonight. So right now I'm not sticking it quite in like this because I know I'm not deep enough, but I'm putting it at an angle just so I can see if this point and this point match. And that looks pretty good there. I need to take a little bit off of that. And I just got to go deeper. So that's just a scrape. If you look at those two halves I passed around, you take it apart, you can see it's actually not undercut. All right, I'm getting close. My circular shape looks pretty good. I just got to go deeper. So we'll continue. You tend to get in a hurry and then you mess up. So now I can see that I'm not touching the bottom, but I'm touching here and here. So that's where I need to take off. There's really no way to see if you're cutting a circle. You kind of, it's hard to eye it, so you just got to take a little cut and check it. All right, I'm making good contact all the way around, but I got a gap here and here, so I got to go a little deeper. Move this up a little. I'm going to switch from my gouge to my scraper. This is just a round nose scraper. I relieved the one side for making boxes, but I'm too high now. I'm sorry?
Why did you do the scraper from the get-go?
The gouge is faster. Plus, the scraper is going to get dull, and then I won't get such a nice finish on my final cut. I'll have to sharpen again. You could use the scraper for the whole thing. Like I said, then you'll just be sharpening because scraping really dulls the tool. Hopefully I didn't overdo it. I was getting carried away there. Up, still a little more, and I see I got to take more off of that edge. Scraper on edge. With a nice shear scrape. And a little bit under here. Just about there. I got the slightest bit here. And I look and I can see a little bit in here got to come off. A little bit in here got to come off. And a little bit down at the very bottom. I wish this went a little faster. I should have changed belts before I started. A little bit there. A little bit there, and a little bit on the bottom. And I still didn't get it. I still got over here to take off. And I think that might do it. This is where I go too far. Thing is, if I go too far on this one, it don't matter because I didn't turn the other side yet. I can just make a bigger circle, so all is not lost. In fact, I toyed with the idea of doing this side wrong on purpose just to show how to fix it, but we are not going to do that. If it's wrong, then it was a mistake.
Rechuck it for doing the opposite side.
Yes. I still got a gap there, so I still got to go a little deeper. I think one more pass over the whole thing will do it. And again, I don't want to use that long side, even though I got a long side on this scraper. That's too much edge on the wood. it could grab. So I'm just going to use the point. Still too tight. Oh, now I did it. 99% of my mistakes are being careless with the tool and touching something you shouldn't. Not too bad. So you got a little bit of a spot there, but we'll deal with that later. And yes, I do spend this much time at home when I'm making these. You got to get it right. It doesn't work if it's not precise. It is just better. If you weren't turning them to match when you'd rotate it 90 degrees, you don't have to be so careful, but because it has to be, it has to be. And I think we got it. I'm going to stop there. Need like Nick Agar had a horn that he would honk to keep people awake in his demo. And I'm thinking, well, if you got to do that to keep people awake, maybe you need to rethink your demo. Say again?
If you wear funky pajama pants, you don't have to wake them up.
Well, that's right. There's one person that can. So much hate in this group. I can't believe it. That'll be next month's challenge. Everybody come in funky pajama pants. I lost my, there it is.
God, now I feel dirty.
Now I'm going to turn this around and rechuck it. And that's the reason for making it this size. It just fits right in. I don't know how this would work with dovetail jaws, because they'd have the 8 points that would dig in, but with the one-way jaws, they're almost kind of rounded a little bit, so you're actually touching on a flat.
Mike, can you go back to why you put the joint between them?
Why I put the joint between? That's so when I measure, I can measure between the jaws. See the joints between now, I can check that between the jaws. If it was hitting the jaw, then my template wouldn't work. I bring the tailstock up because I'm going to take some heavy cuts to get rid of the bulk of this wood.
No, but if you didn't have to break there and it was in between, it's still the shakes.
But he's measuring along the line.
See, when I use the template, it will hit the jaw. I can't extend past. You'll see when I get rid of this wood. The question was, why does it have to be between? It doesn't have to be. It's just better if it is. Now, this is where I mess up most of the time. I turn this point too short, and then you're screwed, and you got to start a whole new piece. Yes?
You just cut the end of the template that doesn't have the angle on it?
You could, but that I like that extra. The thing was, can you cut the template short? And yes, you can, but it's just better if you don't. Now my tool S is still on that 45 or approximate 45. So I kind of watch my gap for getting this right. We don't need this anymore. I'm going to see how close I am to 45 on that little cone. And I'm way off. That's good. I wish I could think of a better way to do this, but I haven't thought of it yet. All right, now I'm pretty close to my 45, so I just got to get rid of that shoulder. But I want to keep the same angle on my wood. And again, you want to be careful cutting. You don't want to pull the fibers out. You want to cut them off. I tried to practice making one of these earlier today, and I cut the point too short. So that's why I'm extra cautious. See, now I can stick my square between the things, and my angle looks pretty good. So I'm going to continue. And I'm only concerned with about a ½ inch at the large diameter and a ½ inch here. The rest of it's going to get turned away. So I'm not too concerned about the whole thing. But let's see. Okay, you see the point's too long. So that's good. But it only takes a little bit until you're too short. That is really close. You can see there's a little gap here, but like I say, that don't matter. That's getting cut away. I think my point is good. I'm going to hit it with the sanding block, wherever I put that. One last check. All right, I got a little bump in there, but that'll be okay. I lost my pattern. Did I drop it on the floor?
I think you picked them all up at one in one fell swoop at the end.
Uh-oh. Now I'm in trouble. Which is the one for this one? Well, this one works.
It's a good you have spares.
Same thing. And if I would have remembered what my setting was, these need to be the same as the other side, but I already moved the caliper, so. Maybe I need 2 sets of calipers. And again, we'll check. All right, this one I actually did right. How about that? And now it's the same thing, just hollow out the end grain. Usually the second side goes faster than the first side because I already did it and I kind of know what I'm looking for. Again, I'm going to get my width before I go for the depth. And I got to go a little bit wider on the upper side. All right, my width looks good. Now I just got to go for depth. All right, it looks like the whole way. Look at that, I'm real close already. Where do I need to take it off? Okay, a little bit up in here. And a little bit there. Almost. We'll go back to the scraper. I can see a little bit here. and a little bit over here. One more cut right in there. And that looks real close. All right, at this point, you want to sand that. Now you have a little 220. It's on a piece of carpet pad. You can pull it into a nice circle and get in here and sand. Pretty good. Sand the point, you got to be careful you don't round things over. A little bit here, but don't hit your fingers on the chuck. All right. One last check, and then we'll... Where's my line? That looks really close. Oh, wait, I didn't sand the other side. Not a problem. You just take it out and you flip it around. No sense sanding that side until you make sure you got the other side right.
But when you're all done, is it valid to say that the point-to-point distance should equal the diameter?
Yes. The point-to-point distance must equal the diameter, or it'll show when you rotate it. That's the most critical one. And that should work because you went your square on each side. And even if I overturned the one side, I'm making it a little smaller when I'm first starting out, you know, before I flipped it around. You still have a lot of leeway there, but once you flip it around and you start hollowing there, you're kind of locked in. Okay, now we'll split it apart and see how I did. And you look, you can barely see some marks on it. I'm not worried about it. You get a little 220 on it, it'll fix it right up. And I just, oh, there's my mallet for the challenge. So I'm a month early. Comes right apart. And you can look, and you want to see nice half circles. They look pretty good. You can turn it and see how you did. Look at that. I cut myself with a chisel. How about that? Don't do that.
Costs extra.
Oh, you dyed the wood red.
Yeah, now I got to do the whole piece.
Like, can you center it over the?
Yeah, I am. I'm just trying to get it. Oh, let me,
Back it up.
there we go. And if you look, I'm off a little bit. Where's my pencil? As you see, I'm a little bit more here and here. And you say, damn, I messed it up. But you know what?
Since those areas don't make contact when it rolls, you can sand it to happiness.
You could sand it to happiness. Wow, I'm gonna bleed all over the place.
Hazmat. Where's our safety committee?
Yeah.
Wasn't wearing the safety glasses properly.
Or since I know I can actually,
Where's the glove? Where's the sending glove?
oh, I don't need no stinking Band-Aid.
I don't need no stinking badges either.
These are medicine kits.
There we go.
It's the gray now.
There we go. I gotta be a real man and use
Right.
duct tape.
It's not.
That's gaffer tape.
Since I know I was a little bit large on that, I can just put it back in, held in place by the jaws. Oh, wrong tool. Oh! Guess what? Let's see how much damage I did now. I think we put away the 220 and get out the 80 grit.
35.
Not too bad, a little bit there. And we'll turn it again and check, and now it's getting a lot closer. All right, to get rid of that paper, now since I used the original Titebond glue, I could wet it and wait 10 minutes or whatever, and it'll peel right off. Or I just put a piece of sandpaper on the back of my cutting board. And see what I did. Okay, I'm still a little bit wide here. I can put it back in and turn some more and check and put it back in and turn some more. Or we can say, you can put it, glue it together and use a little 220 magic on it. And just use your sanding pad and even things up. That works too. By putting it back in and turning more, you run into the law of diminishing returns. They should also match if you flip them 180 degrees. And that's pretty. I might as well do the whole piece. Got enough blood here. Yeah. Looks like I'm a little big on that point. Which one is that? That's this. Yeah, some bloodwood now. I'm going to do a little. I can't leave it like this. That's embarrassing. But by using a chuck like this, you can actually adjust your shape to whatever you need. And if you're turning this and you totally blew it, you make a new pattern with a slightly bigger circle, and you can just hollow the whole thing out again, like you're starting. And eventually you'll get to where it's done or it's trash. See which comes first. That's fairly close now. Not really. I'm struggling here. I know what happened. God's getting me for making fun of Thomas's pants.
No, Thomas is not. Yeah, it's a good job.
He's of the Thomas clan.
Well, I don't know. Does anybody need hazmat gloves for handling this?
Change your pattern, could that be the problem?
Maybe. Maybe I picked up the wrong pattern. It should have been the same circle though, because I only have so many sizes on my thing. Oh, I just did a rush job turning it. So I think we're going to call it done. I don't know if we want to pass this one around now with all the blood on it, but
Glue that, do you clamp it anyway?
oh, gluing it together. Yes, we'll glue it together. I don't clamp it. I just put the glue on. Use my spreader. I always have my glue spreaders with me. That comes in handy. Oh, wait a minute. Let me put some of that. That'll work it. Then I just do a rub joint. And you can kind of feel when it grabs. And you line it up as close as you can. And then, like I say, you can just go at it with a little bit of sandpaper and make everything match. Those other two halves I passed around were actually not sanded, so you can see you can get closer if you're careful. But oh well. And that's all I got. Thank you. Oh no, I'm losing the mic.
Good job, I just turned it off.
So, any other questions?
Got any other jaws you can use on that other than
Maybe, but these are the only jaws I have. You could turn a jam chuck, hollow out a cone and hold it in with hot melt glue to turn the second side. That would work. A vacuum chuck would work. I just found that chuck's already. Did I put the Band-Aid on the wrong side?
It's the wrong hand.
Maybe. We'll get some glue in it. There we go. I'm feeling faint.
It's in one of those nights.
It's all because I made fun of Thomas's pajamas. I'll never do
I'm
that
glad you
again.
didn't waste the Band-Aid on the wrong finger.
I'll never do that again.
That'll be a lesson to you all.
There we go.
You can make up for it by wearing full pajamas.
I'll just give it a kiss.
Don't think I won't. I love a challenge.
There we go. Now I'm good. Well, you may not want to touch the blood, even though I don't have any diseases that I know of, but you never know. And that is actually close enough. You could sand it to make it look good. And the rolly surface is here, so it will still roll.
You should have sealed it before you bled on it.
I should have. I shouldn't have bled on it, actually. I caught myself with the chisel when I split it in half. I didn't expect it to split that easy. That's what happened.
That roll's better than the other one.
Yeah. It's gonna be blood. Yeah.
This is what- yeah, I got to do the whole thing now.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a lot of other shapes. You can do 6-sided, 8-sided, 5-sided, but this one rolls the best, so that's why I kind of
Mike,
stick with that. Yes, Tom.
Next week or next month, you should bring in the one you carved out the interstitial space on. It's just rails. You know, that you made one. Remember? During Art
Yeah.
Day at my house. Did you kill that one?
I glued it
Go too
together.
far?
I glued it together.
Well, what's wrong with gluing it together? Is that what you're supposed to do?
Which one do you mean?
The one where you carved out the space between the.
Oh, that one. Oh, I thought you meant the other one. Yeah, that's not done yet. I could bring it in when it's done.
I'm putting something inside it.
I'm sorry?
Is that the box I'm putting something inside it?
No, that's the thing I was carving out at Michael's carving club,
Oh, okay.
but it's not done yet. I'll bring that in when it's done.
Really
If I-
been slacking.
I
Just
know.
months ago.
Well, I lost interest. Like I said, I'd actually make a whole set of patterns out of plastic and they'd work great, but by next month I'll be on to something else. I don't have the attention span to actually follow anything through.
It's hard to do body of work when you gotta give a pint every time you.
It is.